This video is a studio walkthrough. Specifically, this space here has been built and put together as a seminar recording situation. We are renting the space from a hotel, a DoubleTree, formerly a Holiday Inn. But in this particular space, I must have recorded maybe close to a dozen seminars. And I've done maybe close to 40 seminars in total over the course of the last 10 years. And so that's part of what we do as within the work that I do, which is in the space of media production and marketing, working as a creative professional. What I want to share with you is basically some gear, layout, and lessons that I've learned when it has come down to putting together lights, camera, and audience, not action. Because when we're talking heads, there's very little action, a lot of discussion. So that's why I'm saying lights, camera, and audience. So the first thing that I want to share, so this is a 6-camera shoot. As I'm sharing these, do let me know in the comments any thoughts, ideas, improvements that you might even suggest, because I'm always open. I have been picking things up, and with every production, trying to find that one thing that I can tweak and improve on so that we can make the production easier, workflow faster, and the overall experience for those in attendance that much better. So the first thing, obviously, we've got the cameras. This here is the Sony ZV-E10, Echo 10. One of the things I like about this camera is that this has been a workhorse. I started seminar production with a couple of XD cams from Sony. They've been great, but there's a small 1-inch sensor. They would they would deliver 1080p files, really good 1080p files that were downsampled from 4K. But because it's a 1-inch sensor, I was running into some issues with relation to a lot of noise and higher ISOs, especially in the situation of low light. And the kind of lighting setup I like to have is, because we have audience participating, I need the light to be not too harsh. Now, if I have 1-inch sensors, I'm going to need a lot of light, which also makes the attendance and the experience of the audience a little bit more challenging and difficult, because after spending 8-9 hours at a time, they walk away with spots in their eyes due to all the bright lights. So I needed something that would allow me to have a slightly dimmer layout with relation to lights. That would require me to have a larger sensor, something bigger than 1 inch. And so I got APS-C crop sensors here, Sony ZV-E10, and I got another 2 Sony ZV-E10s over there. In this case, I've got a small rig cage with a V-mount battery attached with a small rig V-mount attachment, one of those that you can just kind of attach a battery here, and you can tighten that up. I really like this setup. This is ideal for kind of like seminar stuff. One of these batteries will last more than a single day. I've got a similar setup here, 2 more ZV-E10s. All 3 of these ZV-E10s had replaced my 3 XD cams, and it's been a great decision. They've got the cages on there as well. One's a smaller, one's a newer. I bought the newer one just to see if there would be any difference. There is a little bit of a difference. I actually prefer the small rig over the newer cage. However, I would recommend the newer V-mount batteries, only by the fact that they're significantly cheaper. You get these for about $100. I also have a Moment 99 watt-hour battery. One thing you'll notice though is that this thing has been on all day and it still reads 99%. Now, this is a defective trait for this battery, and I found that out the hard way. I was on another event production and this thing just randomly died. I'm like, what's wrong? It's reading 99%. Turns out it's just the sensor doesn't know how to read where the battery's at. The way you get around that is, in my case, they're both 99 watt-hour batteries. So if I'm recording at the same time, whatever the other battery's at, so this is at 45%, I know this is probably also close to 40 to 45%. I bought this used off of eBay, so you get what you pay for. So that was that setup. Now I've got 2 Lumix cameras here. I've got a Panasonic Lumix GH5. This is geared towards getting close-up of audience when they're participating. I've got this is actually a cage that's designed for the 5D Mark III, but I put it on here because I wasn't using it for the 5D. Got my monitor, got a basically power bank to power the camera, and a good old G85, which is essentially serving as my wide shot for the audience. So that's the basic setup. I want to kind of share with you also what lenses I'm running with this. Now, one of the things I've learned is the importance of having autofocus on your lenses with the cameras that you're pairing for the sake of seminar production. Now, autofocus is not all that important if the instructor is somebody who's just going to be standing in one place and talking for the entire time. However, we do have instructors, and our instructor today is somebody who I've encouraged to step away from the podium so that they can become a little bit more engaging with the audience themselves. And the audience is also more open to engaging with the presenter because there's less of a physical barrier. Whereas over here, the likelihood of them interrupting or asking a question is lower as opposed to when there is no barrier. And it's also kind of like a physical indicator, a visual indicator for those who are participating. Be like, okay, now I can engage and connect with the instructor on anything. Now, when this happens, I need to ensure that my lenses are autofocus, because the only way around that, what I've done in the past, is I've had to have a person on each camera focusing and moving the camera. Whereas here, if you've got autofocus, the person can be anywhere essentially, and as long as they're within the frame, they'll be caught on camera. Walk through with the lenses that I have here. So these lenses are all rented. I've rented 4 lenses for this production, and these are the top of the line lenses, some of the best lenses I've rented. And after experiencing these lenses for a full day, I think I would want to definitely buy these lenses. This here is an 85mm f1.4 native E-mount from Sigma. You can see the glass element, it is massive. On a crop sensor, it gives you something close to like, what is 85 times 1.5. What is that, 125, 130, something like that? Maybe 135. Yeah, so half of 80 is 40, 40.2, 42, for example, 42.5. So 100, what? Yeah, well, about 130. So let's just say, for argument's sake, in terms of standard focal lengths, almost 135mm on a crop sensor. I love the look and the compression that comes from 135. So 85 on a crop sensor is about the equivalent of that. Then I have here a 50mm f1.2 from Sigma, art lens, native E-mount, again on a crop sensor, giving me close to about an 85mm on here. This one, this Sony ZV-E10 has a 35mm f1.2 art lens, also a really good lens. So it's a rather, it's like a soda can lens, maybe a little bit bigger than a soda can, but it's a great lens. Even in a situation where, I guess in this case, because there's so much space, if you just turn around, just kind of show them how much space there is between here, this allows me to get a nice wide shot of the environment. Even at 1.2, there is a little bit of separation between the folks that are in the front row as well as the background, and it's an autofocus. So even if the instructor moves that up to here, it'll still track him, and it'll track him really good. And this lens is sharp to the point where you might need a Band-Aid because you're gonna get cut. That's how sharp this lens is. Might be a little corny in terms of what I said, but it's all good. My assistant here is shaking his head. Yeah, no, it's super sharp. The good thing about a sharp lens is that, especially when you have a crop sensor camera, you want to make sure that the center of the lens is sharp so that, you know, optically it's able to resolve the image that's coming through the glass. So that's one of the importance. Now, you might have noticed I didn't talk about this setup here because this is a different setup. This here is the Sony ZV-E1. Now, I've rented the Sony ZV-E1 on several occasions. You might wonder why not rent the FX3. It's just more expensive, and the Sony ZV-E1 is fulfilling everything that I would want from a production like this, except for one instance. In every time that I've rented the Sony ZV-E1, I was not able to get it to overheat. I tried, except on one occasion. I had put the camera in my car in direct sunlight and recorded, and in about 20 minutes it overheated. But what won't overheat in 20 minutes, right? Indirect sunlight inside the car. However, one thing I noticed is that if you output on the camera while recording, even at 24p in 4K, and you're outputting to an HDMI monitor, it'll overheat. The moment you disconnect the HDMI monitor and you just monitor it from its own LCD screen over here, then you can record with this all day without any problem. So this is the Sony ZV-E1. I have a small rig cage on here. The monitor, although originally it was recording from here, it overheated and shut down. I just connected the monitor to the Sony ZV-E10. And I've been monitoring this as is by itself. On it, I have mounted a Tamron 35-150. This is a really good lens, but I did notice there is a difference in the performance of autofocus between the Tamron versus the Sigma lenses. The Sigma lenses have not missed a single beat. But for whatever reason, occasionally the Tamron would, if the instructor is at the podium for a little long, the camera forgets, or maybe the lens or whatever, something's happening where it forgets there's a person there and it just jumps to the background. I don't know why it does that, so I'll have to, so what I'll do is I'll just manually, I'll autofocus and then I'll shut it off. So this way it just stays within a particular space. But overall, I think this is a really good lens just because of how much flexibility I have. So I could zoom in and out as needed. If we were to just disconnect this from here, kind of get a direct look in the monitor as it connects, like I can get a really clean look. So right now I just jumped to the background. Obviously there's no person in there, but then I can zoom out to a full wide view. Now this is the view that I have on here, right? Which is actually, it's close to a 50 mil in actual field of view, because this is a 35 on a crop sensor, so you're getting close to a 50. But if it was an actual 35, you capture the entire room, but that's too wide for this situation, especially in a space as large as this. So that's why I'm pumping it over, pushing it into something like that. Nice composition. Now, that covers the cameras, batteries, and lenses. The other thing is tripods. Now, these are E-image tripods, nothing special. It does what it does. Got a, I think it's it's a ball head, but it's the head itself is dampened. I don't know if it's a fluid head tripod, but it's good. What I need is I need 2 more of those because I got 3 right now. I got 2 here, I got 1 here, and then I got some cheap sticks over here. And there's a clear difference in being able to navigate and move everything. But for the most part, I'm not moving that much. But when the instructor starts moving, I have to follow him with the 85. And that's where the shifting kind of gets a little jittery. I'm not taking this one. What I'm thinking is I might actually swap those guys with this one in the morning, because those are never moving. So that's something to consider. Now, the other thing is audio. Now, I am taking a very manual, overworked approach to the audio. The instructor is hooked up to a Tascam DR10L, which is a 24-bit audio recorder, and a backup Rode mic that's wirelessly transmitting to one of the cameras. For the audience members, so I've tried numerous things with audience members where I've had each one with a microphone attached to them. I've had microphones that they can like talk into. Audience members just don't know how to handle a mic. When you wear them, they don't realize, they forget they have a mic on. There's just so much rustling with their fabric and the outfit that they're wearing. Here, if I'm using like a directional microphone or like a podcast style mic, sometimes they're not close enough, and so the audio just comes out really bad, and I gotta work on it just to make it work. So I figured the best bet and the safest bet has been getting a bunch of shotgun mics. I actually have a 3rd mic. Recently moved to a new place, so I don't know where the 3rd mic is. So I gotta find it. But these are Audio-Technica mics. As you'll see, you'll notice they're a bit beat up. They've seen better days, but these mics are hardy. I would buy these over and over again. You can get them for about $250 to $300 each. With them, I've got attached is a Tascam DR10X, which is the XLR version of the other cameras. Now, these things are battery operated, but what I've done here is, if you take a quick look, is I've attached a AAA dummy battery. This thing has been awesome. In a single production, I might go through a lot of different batteries, but when you have a dummy battery here, don't worry about changing the batteries at all. It took me a minute to figure this out. I'm like, we have dummy batteries for cameras all over. Why don't they have dummy batteries for like AAA and AA? Apparently they do. You can just buy them off Amazon. Just look for AAA dummy battery, 2 USB, and that's gonna come in real handy. Now, the other thing that also comes into play is the lighting. So right now, the lights that I've been running, so I'm not a big stickler for lights, especially for a seminar production. You don't necessarily have to be super color accurate. I know we got Aperture and Tamron, some of these, more expensive lights. In this case, this is not a knock on the lights in the company that I'm using. I'm using one, Zhiyun, which is a Chinese company, I think. This has been great. They're small, they're light, they're portable. They even come in their own fancy case. A year or maybe a year and a half back, they sent me a sample to review, and I liked it so much where I bought 4 more. So I have a total of 5 Zhiyun 5-ray, I think it's called, 5-ray F100 lights. What happened? You good? I've also got this Godox light, 200 watt light. It's called a Light Demon. Here, take a look at this. I've done a video on this before. It's a great light. I like it. If anything, I wish I had another 100 watts so I can brighten up the space even more. I'm actually considering maybe getting 2 300 watt LED lights. Back here, I've got a couple of 60 watt lights. I'm basically shooting through this 4-panel wall divider. Specifically, these guys, I just like the texture and the design. Some Chinese woodcut carving, white with the light that shines through. It looks good on camera and contrasts really well with both the black table and the black backdrop, just as a separator, because that's kind of like where we walk. And this is basically it. This is the overall walkthrough. Now, I do know with regards to the audio, whether it's the shotgun mics or whatever, I've got an additional lavalier over here. As a backup, I also run a DJI wireless for any additional audio audience members. We've got this one right here. This is the Mark 1. It's been working great, no regrets. My only wish is that I wish the battery lasts a little bit longer. I'm wondering if the DJI Wireless Mark 2, I don't know if they last longer or not. If they do, let me know. I might buy them. But one of the better workarounds would be for me to run a XLR cable from each of these mic inputs into a single recorder. I actually bought the Zoom H8, I think. It's still in this box, still is in packaging. It's been in this packaging for the last 2 years, and I still haven't used it. So, but yeah, this is the overall studio. You can do a quick spin around. This is the stuff that we're working with. I don't know what number seminar we're at, but I think we're close to 40 over the course of the last decade. And I think in this location, this is like almost a dozen, if not more. But yeah, this is, we started off as just a solo thing, and now it's just, now we got a team of 2. So yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Just wanted to do a quick overview and walk through stuff we're working with. Let me know, what are you shooting with? And do you have any recommendations for what I'm doing here? Any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll see you soon.